Well, we
Let me restart.
well, you put out 2 uploads, I guess.
Okay. I put out 2 videos, one of which was a re-upload of the first video, and you put out a video. I put out the VTubers becoming less human. I had to re-upload it because the first one was 720p.
A learning experience for you.
With Premiere, yeah, because it's my first time using Premiere. I had to learn that shit.
And of course, it'll be interesting to see, because for the people who don't know, when you upload a video in 720p on YouTube, YouTube actually deprioritizes it in the algorithm. So I'm very personally curious to see the difference in the results or whatever of your video now that you've uploaded it properly.
Yeah, it's got about 12K right now, 12K views, which the other one had 20K views after about 2 days, and it's been not even a full day yet. And this one has 12K,
already more than halfway there.
Yeah, I do wonder how this one will do.
Are you getting a lot of comments from viewers you recognize but like weren't? I guess it's hard for you. You probably weren't keeping track of the comments anyways, right?
Well, what are you trying? Oh, as
I'm
in,
trying to say,
no,
like,
I'm looking at the
people
comments.
didn't get it the first time around, but now that you uploaded it, like more of your subs might be getting it. I was wondering.
A few people have said I didn't even see this the first time, which is kind of discouraging on YouTube's part. And some people are saying, I'll watch it again, like, and so that's awesome to hear.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Most comments are positive. One criticism I've gotten, which I think is a valid one, people saying that all my videos just end in the same conclusion of lonely men are becoming outcasted by society, essentially. Although that's not really the conclusion of this video.
Yeah, your conclusion was more like we are detaching ourselves from our humanity.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Which, now, to be fair, that is also something you've talked about multiple times. But whoever was saying the thing got the wrong... they said it wrong. You talked about this multiple times as well, but yeah.
I was thinking, I know sometimes you're a little bit more secretive with your video ideas, but I want to put this out there for my next one. I was thinking about making one about deep fakes. What do you think about that? Like a shorter one this time.
Could be interesting. I mean, do you have an angle for it?
I don't know exactly yet. Hopefully not the same conclusion as this one.
Yeah, I could see how you would end up in a similar road.
Yeah.
With deepfakes.
But it could just be a short one. I don't know. We'll see.
One thing I actually didn't mention in my video that was brought to my attention by one of my viewers who came into Discord after was that Roblox actually does have monetization options. I didn't realize that because I personally don't have Roblox.
Because personally, I thought it was a joke.
Well, I just don't have Roblox. But yeah, apparently, like, people are like becoming millionaires off of their Roblox games.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So like he showed me this
Holy
game called
shit.
Adopt Me, and it's a very popular Roblox game, and the creators of that game have amassed over $16 million from microtransactions that they put in the game.
Dude, let's become Roblox millionaires. Fuck this. What are we doing on YouTube? Let's fucking do it.
In Roblox.
By the way, I'm going to add Bowblax to the call right now.
Oh, he's down? Oh.
Greetings.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, man? I've never talked with you before.
No, I don't think I've talked with any of you before. So
yeah.
Are you recording right now, or
we are recording right now? Yeah, we were like in the middle of the podcast.
That's what I assumed because
you're on set right now, man.
Yo, I'm on the set of the Glink and Slush show.
Yeah,
the Gush podcast.
It's kind of like the Eric Andre show. We're gonna have a naked guy run out in a few seconds and slap you. So what's
all right,
up,
so we're talking about this tweet that Cadence Owens made about
Cadence Owens. There's no Candace Owens.
Candace Owens.
Yes.
Whatever. I don't know this person, but there's no society that could survive without strong men. The East knows this. In the West, the steady feminization of our men at the same time that Marxism is being taught to our children is not a coincidence. It is an outright attack. Bring back manly men. Now, I respond by saying, last time I checked, the vast majority of men are masculine. Even if that wasn't the case, it wouldn't be an issue. And
dude, this is great. It's like watching video. Yeah, it's like watching a Bowblax video in person. This is amazing.
Yeah. So
Okay. Let me read your response word for word again, just to see. I mean, what I took issue with was that number one, I feel like it's not really her tweet. I don't see how her tweet's related to LGBTQ.
Well,
First of all,
the tweet she was responding to was talking about wasn't it talking about like gender
talking about
fluid or
Harry
something?
Styles, who's like kind of dressing more feminine, but I don't think she was trying to attack anything. That's
Yeah, I don't think
inherently-
the point of her tweet was about LGBT culture. I think it was more about the attack on masculinity that has sort of risen up in the last, I don't know, decade or so.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years, I would say.
Mostly associated with quote unquote woke culture
or feminism.
Yeah,
the attack on masculinity. I see the more embracing of femininity, but I don't see like necessarily like a huge attack
toxic
on masculinity.
It's like a really popular term that has come up in the last few years. And I think that term has been used to just lump all masculinity into toxic masculinity over time with people who aren't real. Like, it's probably started in academia and then sort of trickled down into circles of people who aren't actually educated on the topic, but are just throwing words around. Then it becomes sort of mainstream from there.
Totally. Also, I'll say, you're saying you haven't seen the attack of masculinity. I feel like the whole pointing out everything as a patriarchy and
yeah,
men,
no.
like there's a lot of anti-male rhetoric I see, particularly on Twitter, which I know is not everything, but it's very popular.
But was the tweet she was quote tweeting an attack on masculinity? I didn't really see it as that. I saw it more as in like an embracement of femininity.
I think she's trying to say that femininity is very celebrated while masculinity is very attacked. I know she didn't show an article showing the latter, but I think that's kind of just ubiquitous now, like it's everywhere.
I wouldn't say it's like overbearing. I mean, there's definitely like instances of masculinity being attacked, but I also see like, you know, masculinity being praised and stuff like that. So like, I just see it as
Where
like,
do you see that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't see that too often.
Like, just like people like saying, "Oh, this guy is hot," or like fucking just people showing off their abs or whatever. Like, it's like no one looks at a guy who's very masculine. They're like, "Oh, fuck that," you know.
Well, I don't think those are exactly examples of masculinity being praised, though. I think that's more just people being horny on main or something.
Yeah.
I think that like when I say attack on masculinity, I mean like personality traits more than anything.
Yeah, so when I looked at that Owens tweet, I wasn't thinking that she was talking necessarily about like an attack on masculinity, but more saying that like femininity of men is an attack on masculinity, which I disagree with. Like the act of there being feminine men is an attack on masculinity because she is
that I would agree with you.
Yeah. So that's how I saw the tweet.
Maybe we interpret it differently because my interpretation is just she's kind of pointing out the landscape of culture and media to be against masculinity and to praise femininity. And in that sense, one could make the argument that the two kind of are diametrically opposed, meaning the more that people praise femininity, the more against masculinity they're going to be, and vice versa. You don't think?
And I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I'm like praising that a man is feminine," I don't think that's an attack on masculine men. I don't think that person also like hates when a man is masculine or whatever. You can just praise anyone for any aspects they have.
On paper,
praise a masculine man and praise a feminine man.
On paper, I agree with you. Like both can coexist at the same time. But I do think, and I guess it's obviously more anecdotal than anything, but I do think that right now we're living in a time where it is sort of like a swing in one direction, where the praise of femininity is going up and the like appraisal of masculinity is going down, and the like rejection of masculinity is going up, whereas
I would say the rejection of masculinity is going up, and that's an issue. But I would also say that like masculinity has kind of generally been praised, and I think the praisal of femininity, it might be like overblown now, especially on the internet. The thing is, like, this is all like subjective. It like really depends. Like, I don't know. I think masculinity is like more praised in general, but then that's like looking at it from like a real life perspective online. It's definitely like very skewed towards like, oh, let's praise all these more feminine men or whatever. But when I saw her tweet, she literally said word for word, "The study of feminization in our men is an outright attack, and has taught our children to not be masculine."
Right, because
and I just see that like the way she worded it, it seemed like she was more like attacking femininity rather than saying, "Hey, let's not attack masculinity." Right? It seemed more offensive than defensive, and that's why I was like, "Why is someone so intolerant of this person being feminine?" And then I attributed like a feminine man to being LGBTQ, which is kind of like the same category, like non-binary type stuff. Like, I'm sure if a man dresses up in a dress in public, they're going to call themselves non-binary. So that's kind of how I attribute it to LGBT. Maybe that was a bit of a stretch, but overall, like, that's just how I saw the tweet, right? And I think that's what the tweet is saying more so than that, toxic masculinity and all the stuff you're saying, which I generally do agree with. It's just that I don't think that's what her tweet was saying.
Although you did
That's
say
why I
you don't
responded in that
see
way.
it, you feel like most people are masculine. Most.
Oh,
people.
yes, for sure. If you go outside, are you going to see a man in makeup or just a normal man with a beard? Like,
Well,
maybe like the definition of femininity / masculinity in a man is also subjective. So I'm curious to see what.
yeah,
If you think there's majority femininity, I'm curious to see what your definition of that is.
I don't know if I would say it's a majority of femininity, but the trend certainly seems to be going that way. And the trend is what matters, because that is what reality is going to look like in, a certain amount of time, 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
Sure.
So I see in my generation specifically, like, kind of millennial, Zoomer, whatever, those types of people, it's a meme, but like, yeah, you see a lot of femboy culture, a lot of femboy stuff, which again,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to say I have a problem with these things, or I don't have friends who are like that, but that's just it. It's like, I see a lot of my own friends kind of either going down this, I don't want to say path, like it's a bad thing all the time, but just they're kind of lean towards that more than being more masculine, traditionally masculine stuff. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, I personally think that's more of it just being more accepted. I think these people would have been, feminine men or wanted to be feminine men regardless, but maybe in the past they would keep it more of a secret or whatever because society
I disagree.
Okay.
I think that it's like a reward system of behavior where you see femininity is rewarded, and so you're seeing more people act feminine in order to get that sort of reward. It's kind of like, I remember this joke, I think it was like an Onion article or something, or maybe something like that, where it was like the joke was that like parents are finding that their kids are pretending to be gay on Twitter or something, and it's like exactly like that. Basically.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe teenagers do that, but once you get to a certain point in adulthood, you'll like realize who you are. And
well, that may be true of the past, but you don't know how. Like, let's say that culturally we go further and further in this direction. You don't know that people will naturally come to the conclusion that, like, it could just lead people into a state of confusion about how they should be or who they are.
Yeah. I remember there was like a similar conversation around this with trans people in particular, like a couple of years ago. They were like, oh, people are just trans trenders rather than transgender, and they're only transitioning because people reward it and people praise people who transition. And actually, I personally know a guy who thought he was gay and told everyone he was gay, and then later he came out as straight, which I found was pretty interesting. So I do understand like this trend thing, but to say that like, or accuse all these people of trending, isn't that kind of like, what if they're not? Like,
no, I'm not accusing all of them of trending or anything. I'm just saying that reward encouragement sort of system exists, and that is going to lead confused people in like a direction that maybe is detrimental for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe the way you interpreted Candace Owens' tweet is probably largely to do with you not really focusing on these issues much in your day-to-day life.
Oh, no. I just saw the tweet and I'm like, wait, why are they shitting on this guy in a dress, right?
Yeah, I can see why you would come to that conclusion.
I don't even know who this Owens person is. She's verified, probably some political figure. I don't know who she's is. Like, I was just looking at the tweet for what it is rather than like anything surrounding it.
No, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, we don't need to focus so much on the tweet because I think I'm not trying to like put you on trial for a tweet. I was just interested in. I'm more so just interested in the conversation and seeing where you were coming from. To be honest, it's not.
Yeah, because you said like I didn't think deeply about the topic enough, which I think I have.
Well, yeah, I said that because you said society doesn't need majority masculine or majority feminine men/women.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I personally strongly disagree with that. I think society does need majority masculine men and majority feminine women.
Wow, based Slush.
Based, yeah.
I agree.
Turkey-san would be proud.
I mean, we've never seen a society where it's, equal feminine/masculine men or majority feminine men. So literally, like, it's not field tested, so I can't tell whether it would work or not. Right. I think it's fine the way it is. My whole thesis on this is just let people express themselves the way they are. And, just because like someone's a feminine man doesn't mean they're like contributing to the downfall of society. Which,
no, I agree with you.
I know that's not what you're saying, but I felt like that's kind of the message that this Owens person was pushing out there.
I think that her message is more of a fear that if we continue to downplay masculinity and encourage femininity, you're eventually going to end up with a complete lack of strong male presence in society. And that since Candace Owens is a Republican, which means that she's probably has like more traditional views. And a traditional view would essentially be that you need a masculine and a strong female presence in society for it to function properly.
Yeah, and I just don't agree with that, but I understand that opinion. I just don't agree with it.
We can look to history somewhat for this, though. I mean, people often, I've heard this argument or this point being made, which I think is a good one, that like in the fall of Rome, and maybe some other ones too, the men, or not just the men, I guess everyone, was just very obsessed with gender and gender roles and these kinds of things because I forgot the exact reason he was saying, but this guy named Douglas Murray talked about it. Who's this? He's not related to Charles Murray. Some people think that he is.
I don't even know who that is.
He's a British author, I believe, Douglas Murray. Anyways, but he was talking about how during the fall of Rome, people became very obsessed with gender and taking apart everything down to the most minute detail and deconstructing everything, including gender, deconstructing identity. And it's hard to not see parallels between that and where we are now in the American empire. So that's as a counterpoint to saying, well, it's not that this has not been completely unfield tested. It sort of has, or not exactly the same, but similar. Maybe.
I actually didn't know about that, but I do agree, like, and I understand the perspective that it is a bit excessive. Like, I was more right-leaning like 4 years ago, and I probably would have agreed with all of what you're saying wholeheartedly back then.
What's changed? I'm curious.
It's just like, I feel like forcing people into a position where they feel like they have to fulfill a certain role to make other people happy, but when it's like, when it ultimately doesn't harm people, it's just like, it's an unhealthy mindset for some people to get into. I'm looking at it as at more of like an individualist level. Like, what if you're a feminine man, but you feel guilty because you feel like you're, as I said, contributing to like a less strong society or whatever.
I would say in response that I feel like it's much more likely for people of our age to feel the opposite, to feel guilty or like wrong if they're portraying masculine traits. And I do think it is a lot more accepted, at least amongst, again, younger people, to be more feminine as a guy than it is to be more masculine. I honestly believe that.
I think it depends where you go on the internet and where you go in real life too. Because like, I don't know, like when my friends work out or whatever and they get buff, everyone's like, hell yeah, keep grinding, bro. You look awesome. Like it's encouraged, like working out, looking strong, being masculine.
You keep tying the idea of masculinity to just physique when I don't even think the two are related, actually.
Like, wait, but she was replying to a guy in a dress, which would be feminine. So I'm.
Well, I think we're moving away from her specific tweet and just more on the concept of masculinity in society.
I guess what I'm saying is working out and being in shape can just as much be a feminine trait as it can be a masculine one. They're not necessarily masculine or feminine just for...
Well, it depends like what you're working out. Like if you're working out your ass, it's more like feminine. But if you're working out your biceps and shit, I would say that's masculine, tied directly to masculinity.
Arguably, but it's also kind of the fact that you care that much about your arms and your physique, you could argue itself as very vanity driven and in some ways feminine.
Well, I see masculinity as and femininity as like, you know, expressing yourself. Like the whole concept of masculinity and femininity in itself is vanity. Like it's just
I don't agree. Yeah, I think like
I see we like as Glink was talking, or Slush, I can't really tell your voices apart all too well. I apologize for that. I think we have different different definitions. We have different definitions of masculinity and femininity. So I would like to hear what your baseline, in your opinion, like how would you define masculinity and femininity?
Let me start.
Each.
I think masculinity is best defined by personality traits and the type of culture that surrounds that archetype of a man, so to speak. So a masculine man is someone who is not very emotionally open. But I think the other side of not being emotionally open is that you're willing to take a lot of risks. You have a lot of strength. You have endurance. You have stoicism. You can face great difficulty and rise to a challenge. And, you know, the whole idea of like one man can change the world is true, I think, when you're driven enough. And a lot of these traits that I'm talking about, these driven, you know, strength, these kinds of things, they are more masculine traits. And feminine traits are, by the way, I think I'm probably, I don't know if I'm equal parts, but I'm definitely very feminine by my own definition, which is that I think feminine traits are more like creative and very open-minded, very expressive through art, through language, nurturing, caring. And by the way, I think both of these are great, and men can be both of these things. But I do think that we're kind of losing masculinity from our society as well.
Well, the thing is, like, I see, you would agree that the term masculinity and femininity are like polar opposites. Like, it's just like a spectrum, and one would be femininity on one side and masculine. So you can't be masculine and feminine at the same time. You'd agree with that, right?
You can't be 100% masculine.
Yeah. You can't
at the
be
same
100%. Well, you can be 50-50.
In somewhere on the spectrum.
Well, with your definition of masculinity, like you're saying, like a fully masculine man would be more emotionally reclusive, but also like very can endure and achieve a lot.
He'd have a lot
through some emotional endurance. Resilience.
Yeah.
I think you can be both. I think you can be emotionally open and vulnerable if you want to be, and you can be more stoic and
I agree that
endured and grind.
And that would put you somewhere along the spectrum that isn't on the either extreme.
I totally agree that you can be both, and maybe I think that's actually what we need more of, is a balance of those things, for sure.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, I think that we absolutely should be encouraging people to just express themselves in the way that is natural to them. But I think that we're not doing a very good job of it with... I think that you have this thing with progressive culture where in an effort to get somewhere, they're constantly putting someone else down. So it's like in an effort to like reach equality, it's like we're seeing a lot of like anti-white like rhetoric from...
I really don't like that. I'm not like super like progressive like libtard or whatever. I'm more like leaning a bit more to the left, but like I do think there's definitely like a limit, like when you're like praising this stuff so much that you're also putting the other side down in the process. I think that's an issue. I think it should be that everything is accepted and equal, and everybody can be with the raw, unless it's like illegal, obviously, like pedophilia or some crazy shit like that.
That's generally where I stand too. Like everything, like people should just be able to be who they are. And every aspect of what's natural should just be encouraged without discouraging a different aspect, basically. And I think that whole masculinity debate thing is that like people like Glink and I are concerned that like there's in the effort to embrace femininity, that there's just been a push down on
What are
masculinity,
your concerned parents?
and the implications of that are negative overall on society.
Yeah. What's interesting about this discussion is I think we ultimately agree in the place we want to be, but I see it as more like masculinity is like up here and like femininity in men is down here, and the femininity needs to catch up, but you see it as like the opposite, with the femininity's passing the masculinity. So just the state of where it's at, we disagree, I guess, but I think we want the same thing ultimately, is what I'm gathering from here.
I wouldn't say that I think femininity is passing masculinity. I just think that like masculinity is being
or
like
getting to
knocked
that point.
over or whatever. Yeah.
I would say that from a big picture perspective, I feel like it's what the ideal that you guys want. I don't know if it's possible, and I want it too, where there's almost like a perfect balance of the two. I feel like there's always going to be one that's more dominant in the culture. And for a long time, it was masculine and patriarchal. And now it's more like feminine, which I don't think is any, I think, there's a lot of consequences that can come with that. And there's consequences that come from the masculine one too, but it's like, which world would you rather live in? And I'm not convinced that it's the feminine one.
Generally, when it comes to these things, I'm all about equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. Because I recognize that things in a natural state of things, it's not equal. You're always going to have more of one thing come up. As long as everyone and everything has the same like ability to do whatever, then I'm happy.
Yeah, the same starting point. Yeah, like I'm not like for example, I'm not like a communist. I don't think everybody should have equal, but I do think like if we live in a capitalist society, everybody should have like
you're not
equal
a communist?
chance to no. Everyone should have like an equal chance to like achieve greatness. The only thing that should be stopping you is yourself. Like for example, a black person and a white person should have both the same opportunities to become a millionaire, for example, or whatever. Yeah. So we should strive towards that. Although that will never be the case because there's obviously variables like maybe you grow up with you have shit parents or what have you. So there's always all these other variables, and you can never have it perfectly perfect, or even. Yeah, it's incredibly complicated. I think like to advocate for,
equality of opportunity
to have equality. Yeah, that's.
And
so,
that's the concerning thing about that video clip. Kamala Harris, our next president, Madam President, is
the thing before the election.
Yeah, the equity. It's like she's saying the problem with equality, and that how she's basically advocating for equity, which is what we're talking about. And I agree with you, is the equality of opportunity. We should strive to make people start from the same place, but equity is like everybody gets the same result, which is basically communism, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
That video was framed in a way where it's like we should all have the same starting point, but then it suddenly puts in and we should all end on top of the mountain. But it's like whether or not you make it to the top of the mountain should be based on your own ability to climb.
Your merits,
like your desire to climb, rather.
Yeah, basically where I was coming from with this is like I don't think any of being either masculine or being feminine should be discouraged. And I feel like with that tweet that Owens made, it was discouraging femininity in men as a bad thing, and that's why I'm like, why are people so intolerant of femininity? But that's why I made that tweet, and that's also the reason I replied, which is I guess why you stepped in, Slush. I said that like a society doesn't need majority femininity or need majority masculinity, and that's my opinion. But it needs to be field tested, and it can't be field tested because it's always been majority masculinity. Maybe if it keeps going down this concerning road, I guess, where like femininity would overtake masculinity within men, which would be a bit weird. I don't know how that would
only ever
play out, but
it was like forced to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that like when I say that like I think a society does need majority masculine men and majority feminine women, I mostly mean that I think that the majority of men are naturally masculine and the majority of women are naturally feminine.
Yeah.
And like that needs to continue to exist.
The balance needs to stay. I actually agree. I fully agree with that. There needs to be a balance between the two. It can't be like everybody's 99% feminine, majority girls, majority men, and there's almost no masculinity.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad balance because I think like masculinity and femininity really like work well with each other, like within relationships or society in general, and they bring different positives and negatives, as you were saying earlier, with like creativity versus like working hard or what have you. Although I wouldn't specifically tie to those traits to the words masculinity and femininity. I get the concept you're bringing up. I definitely think that there does need to be a balance of masculinity or femininity, but whether that's in men or whether that's in women, I think is irrelevant, and that was the point I was making.
Thank you, Bowblax. Very cool.
I don't know. I rambled a little bit there.
No, we had a good discussion.
I do care about this topic a lot. I think it's interesting.
No, I think it's good that you came on because tweets are just
I don't know. I just read tweets. If I make a video that isn't reading tweets,
read Candace Owens' tweet, and this time make a whole video dissecting it. That'd be cool.
I don't know. I don't like to get political because it's like I do occasionally, obviously, with that tweet, but it can get very like hostile. I mean, luckily you guys are very like easy to talk to, so it's not.
Aww.
It wasn't like a heated debate or anything like that. But I feel like if I was talking to someone else, they could
How old
be
are you,
very.
by the way?
23.
Oh, okay, you're not that much younger.
Yeah,
he's like a few years younger than you.
Yeah, you're a reasonable guy from talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's it's just a problem with Twitter. Everything sounds like such a matter of fact statement when it's in
I know
100 characters or less.
There's always way more nuance.
There always is way more nuance. I mean, I don't know if maybe I could admit some fault here. I don't know if there was like anything I said in my tweets that seemed like super definitive or could be like misconstrued in the wrong way. Because obviously, I only see my tweets in the way I think.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not.
Yeah. Well,
in a funny way, this whole conversation comes about from the lack of nuance of Twitter, because I bet you that if Candace Owens had more room to say what she was thinking.
Let me add her. I'm gonna mess
I bet you her tweet would frame her perspective more fully.
No, actually,
and then you wouldn't have missed.
Is pretty unreasonable in person too, from the podcast.
Actually, yeah, I have seen her on Joe Rogan podcast, and she seems fucking
she's
so stupid. Yeah.
So she's not a good example, but the point still stands.
Yeah, looking back at my tweet, maybe I shouldn't have said it's such a childish mindset, because that puts it in like if you don't think my way, you're childish, which I probably shouldn't have said that one, but yeah.
I mean, we've all done it.
Fuck it, dude. It's a trash website. It's fast food.
Dude, this is always the issue with debates. I feel like people agree with each other a lot more than they realize, but the thing is, we're coming at it from different points of views. You're coming at it from there's too much femininity. I'm saying like there's not enough, but the result we want is relatively the same.
Yeah.
That happens a lot when I talk with people.
And we're all in our own little social bubbles on the internet. So
yeah, exactly.
You're absolutely right. People have way more in common with each other than they realize most of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's like a very positive outlook too to have, because we all feel like we're so divided these days, but in reality, we're actually way more on the same page.
Yeah.
Than the opposite.
And like, I don't necessarily think like you're wrong in like your views of that there's like too much promotion of femininity and like too much discouraging of masculinity, because in another place on the internet or in the world that might be true, but I think it's just different depending on what sector of the internet you're engaging in or what sector of the world you're engaging in real life. Like, for example, I live in British Columbia, so I live in a very more liberal place, but I don't know if I'd be having that same discussion if I grew up in Alabama, so it's different. So you can be right, but maybe only for your area in particular of what people think. Too much Canadian.
You got to join us, man. You got to move here. Get out of there before the Civil War.
Dude, at this point, I need to seek asylum, truly.
Come live in Toronto with me.
So Bowblax, thank you for being on. Can you leave the call now?
Okay.
No,
thanks for coming.
Honestly, though, thanks for coming. It was nice talking with you.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was fun. Wait, what's the podcast called so I can actually go back?
It's called Gush. This is gonna be episode 7, and I'll link it to you. It'll be up tomorrow or tonight. I don't know. We'll do it soon.
Okay. See you later. Thanks for letting me invade your podcast.
Thanks for coming, dude.
Peace.
God, surprised guest. Like, who knew?
Finally, he's gone. Can we go back to saying how much femininity sucks now? God, what a pussy, right?
I was only pretending to be Canadian to make him feel better. I actually hate Canada.
No, he's pretty
good,
reasonable.
yeah. I'm glad that we had that conversation because I honestly wouldn't have known his actual thoughts on the matter otherwise.
Yeah.
Probably. And even you were discouraging me from replying earlier, and I tend to try usually like I don't like getting in Twitter arguments, so I maybe never would have found out his actual thoughts on the matter.
No, you're like me. You don't, except a little bit less like me, but I think usually you try to stay out of conflict or kind of arguments, especially online. But I think when you get dragged into one, if you're invested, you're really invested.
I think in person, I'm very confrontational, but online, I'm not.
Really?
And I think online, there's no, like the value in being confrontational is just not there. You just end up arguing against a screen, and it's like pointless. And the person you're talking to often, if it's through text, the person you're talking to just is probably not getting swayed in any way, and they're
yet
not
another way that
in
masculinity is discouraged. But yes,
but in person, it's so much more worth it to be confrontational because if like someone's pulling some shit or something's happening that's not okay, like you in your daily life, your actual tangible life, you gotta correct it. You can't just let someone walk all over you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Obviously, pick your battles, though.
This was an interesting little experiment, though, because we went directly from a Twitter conversation to I've never done that.
Combo. Yeah, same.
Like that fast.
Actually,
and that.
Have I done that?
Out of the blue?
No, I don't think so.
It's interesting.
I hope that your OBS was recording all of that.
Yeah, it was. It is.
Okay. Because we don't have his audio otherwise.
No, I know.
Good.
Yeah, that's Bowblax, everybody.
That's
the
Bowblax,
commentary
Bugsnax
community. Does this mean we're part of the commentary community now? Because we made a piece
I think
of
that we are
content
like by proxy became part of the commentary community.
Oh, we had Turkey Tom.
Sometime this year. Yeah, I don't know. When we had Turkey Tom on, maybe. Yeah.
I want to get the fuck out. The fuck out, buddy. No,
why
we're
the
not
commentary
even really
community is the only community that's like critical of things.
True.
I like that a lot about the commentary.
Well,
community.
I think you'll find, I don't know if there's much of a community, but you'll find YouTubers like, I would guess that people like Barely Sociable, Oki, a few others who kind of make more journalistic or long video essay style videos. They seem like they're the types to be more.
They certainly are too. 100%.
YouTube and authority and such.
I agree. Yeah.
Commentary is the new punk rock.
The thing is that like those guys are just individuals, whereas
the
commentary community is an actual community, and usually communities tend to like, I don't know, they're trying to be very much appeasing to the general public, and you don't usually see a community like unanimously criticizing something that the rest of the world is blindly like just looking the other way or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's why I called it the punk rock.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It sounds so lame out loud. So
yeah, well, I'm kind of
the punk rock.
I'm joking, but it's like
no, but there's truth to the analogy.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to our videos.
Let's talk VTubers. Are you gonna watch VTubers now that you're done the video on them? Will you keep up with them?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Because I am subscribed to a few, and I do see that whenever they're live, it pops up. No, I don't think so. Maybe I'll watch clips or something if they go viral. But I've never really been the type to sit down and watch any streams for a long period of time. But for this video, I did feel like VTubers were more alluring than if I was just researching some random streamer or something happening on Twitch that I'm not that invested in. You know, like I found myself getting more invested in this video as I was making it, which is an interesting feeling because I think it shows that there is a lot of potential into what you're saying and what you're experiencing.
Yeah, like you said in your video, you get lost in their performance or whatever you want to call it, and the way that they, you know, they're just this cartoonish character, and it's like infectious, and it's kind, you kind of just can't help yourself but laugh along with what they're doing and enjoy the experience.
Yeah. And it's also something that's at the cross section of what we're talking about, because there is I think a lot of feminine men are kind of drawn to VTubers. And I think it kind of speaks to that being more of a thing now. I don't think you had this audience of 50,000 live viewers for some of these streamers on a daily basis 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It's really getting very popular, and it's not hard to see why.
Yeah, I mean, even my experience with VTubers is basically your video and Ecom Bokum. But,
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoyed both quite a bit. Like all the clips you had of the VTubers, like it's just entertaining as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is that you're, at least unless I'm misunderstanding it, is that you're saying that like this, making this video made you more interested in the topic, but usually that wouldn't happen for you?
Well, no, it's not that it usually doesn't happen, but it's just usually like if I was making, I mean, I'm sure because we've talked about this, like when I've made videos on Twitch, you've made videos on Twitch.
Yeah.
Unless it's a specific streamer that I'm really interested in, or the video's about a specific streamer, generally speaking, when I'm compiling clips and recording footage and giving examples of different streamers and such, I'm pretty uninvested in, I might be invested in the idea of the video or the topic in general, but like I don't actually hold any interest or attachment or get really any enjoyment myself out of the streamer usually. This might be a little bit different for you because you make history ofs based on streamers that are already interesting to you. So that's of course
that's not
different.
See, that's
dynamic.
Not entirely true. I've done
No?
videos on people that I didn't have an initial interest in when I started. Like when I did the Shroud documentary, I did the Shroud documentary as a business move in my head. I was like, okay, I made this Doctor Disrespect video that I thought was going to do so well, but at the time was a complete flop. It didn't get any views. Got like 4,000 views and just stopped.
Now it has what, like 2 million?
4 million.
Holy shit. Talk about a slow burner.
Yeah.
How long before it got popular?
It started getting popular like halfway into the process of me working on the Shroud video, which was the next video that I was doing.
Okay.
And my mindset for picking Shroud was, okay, maybe my Doctor Disrespect video is failing because it's oversaturated as a topic. And I had never done a Twitch streamer at this point. I'd only done 2 Smash players. And I was like, I want to do a documentary on a Twitch streamer. So let me pick someone that's popular but doesn't have a lot of videos about them. Also I was thinking, someone that people on Reddit like, so someone could post my video on Reddit and it'll do well. And through that, I came to the conclusion that, I should do a video on Shroud. But by the time I finished the video, I was like, Shroud's fucking awesome. Like, I love watching this guy. And I continued to watch him for a little while afterwards, too. And on top of that, my brother got into Shroud and still watches him.
Oh, okay. That was bigger. That changed your life, basically.
Well, I don't know about life, but the point is that, like, it's not, for me, it's pretty common that once I start diving into a topic, I become increasingly more interested in the topic itself and the things around it.
Yeah, I'm just talking about like, okay, for the parasocial problem with live streaming video, I'm very interested in the topic, but when I'm gathering clips from these streamers, I'm not at all drawn to them. Does that make sense? Whereas when I'm doing the same thing with VTubers, I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny. Like this clip would be funny to me just if I wasn't even doing research. You know
but
what
I think
mean?
the difference is that like when you're drawing clips of streamers for the parasocial problem with live streaming, you're kind of just getting a whole bunch of, there's like no uniting theme of, it's just clips from streamers ultimately, you know?
Well, yeah, but some of the clips are meant to suit a certain narrative. I mean, yeah,
Sure.
Whatever. I guess
but
we're
like
splitting hairs
VTubers
at
is
this
just
point.
like, it's VTubers. It's like a category entirely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, VTubers they really are their own category. That's the main, and I think it's going to get more popular. I hope I'm
Definitely
wrong in a way, but
really?
I mean, yeah, I would rather, wouldn't like, okay, imagine the Twitch just chatting section one day is majority of the popular streams are VTubers. I mean, we're already kind of there, because I see Iron Mouse, who streams on there, and Nanners, these two VTubers on Twitch, and they get, you know, multiple thousands of viewers, and they're usually near the top of just chatting on Twitch. But like, would that be disturbing to you at all if the majority of, let's say, a few sections on Twitch were VTubers all the time?
Inherently, it wouldn't, but it would really depend on. I would be more concerned if I was starting to see weird behavior from the viewers of those VTubers more than anything. Because I know, like, for the people running the streams, for them, this is like, oh, it's just like I'm putting on a little show. Like, I don't think for them, like, the idea of becoming less human, I think it applies less to them. I think it applies more to the viewers watching the VTuber.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I think it applies to both, actually. But anyways, it's obviously more impactful to thousands of viewers versus one streamer.
Yeah, but numbers aside, I just think that the actual streamer is more detached from the concept of this VTuber character being a real living thing, as opposed to the viewers who are solely experiencing the VTuber character as...
I don't think I agree with that. Because when I was making that video, when I had my VTuber character, I do feel... Well, I feel, maybe the word is, maybe you're right technically, that I do feel detached, but it's like, I feel like when that character is talking in my video, there is a degree of separation between if it was just my narration or certainly if it was me on camera, you know? And so like, what is this thing I've created?
But like, you are also experiencing yourself when you're talking. So it's like, you know your own existence. To you, it's like there's you and then there's your character. And maybe, yes, you've created this thing that's detached from you that seems to be alive on its own. But the difference is for the viewers, there is no, if like, let's say you were a VTuber, there is no Glink, there is just Glink's character. And the Glink's character is what's alive on screen all the time. And so like the idea of the person behind the mask is just like completely obfuscated at that point. Whereas for the person wearing the mask, like they know who they are. Like you can make arguments about wearing a mask too long turns you into something else or whatever, but
there is no Glink.
Yeah, like for you there is a Glink and there's a Glink character, and for the viewers there is just a Glink character.
No, there is no Glink.
Okay, whatever, Greg.
Okay, I'm just.
It's not the Glink that bends; it's just yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyways, what's the latest with Animal Collective news?
So anyways, fuck it, man. What's been up? How's your daughter? Great segue.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap up, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long this episode's been. My recording says I've been recording for an hour 10, but obviously the podcast is shorter than that.
Nobody's listening to this point. Mine's also an hour 10.
All right, if you're listening to the podcast still at this point, in the comments, just write cereal box. Anywhere in your comments.
And if you're on Spotify, log in on YouTube and type something in the comments.
And if you're on Spotify, just donate $400,000 to each of our accounts.